no, do it. No, no, no. Howdy, y'all. I'm Adam, the Renaissance Nerd, and welcome to my review of Halo, the TV series, episode 1. Ooh, well, this was certainly something. I've done some pre-videos on this, talking about I see red flags, how this is going to be a woke agenda narrative type show, and I see some of those flags in this first episode. Before we get going, let me give you a brief understanding of where I am with Halo as a franchise. I've said this in previous videos, but this may be your first time joining me. So I want you to understand, I'm not a hardcore Halo guy. I'm not an Xbox guy. That was not my console of choice 20 years ago. Although I did get a used Xbox, I have played Halo 1 numerous times over and over again back in the day. Played a little bit of Halo 2, but then I dropped off because, as I said, not a Halo guy, not an Xbox guy. But I did my best to keep up with the franchise that was going on. So, my Halo lore is not rock solid. This is not like me reviewing Wheel of Time or a Star Wars show where I got the goods. I got the pedigree for it, but no. So, when reviewing this show, yes, I've reviewed some of the Halo lore to beef myself up a little bit so I can contradict some of the changes we know they are making in this Silver timeline. But going forward, I'm going to review this show mostly on the basis of what I see on the screen. Behavior of characters, behavior of story, behavior of the narrative as I see it. That's how we're going to go through this. We're going to do our best. So, without further ado, let's get started. Oh, if only this show was that in its entirety, or at least with an actual focus. Because, let's be honest, Halo is about blowing up aliens. That's what it's about. It's about mowing down aliens and everything that comes along with that in terms of the story. It's not about boring, unrelatable characters. Master Chief is the Master Chief, but if we had gotten a story of the Master Chief and maybe his Silver team, which of course has been now retconned from Blue Team, his actual team in the actual Halo lore is Blue Team. The Silver team, if it had just been the Master Chief and his Silver team with their helmets on the whole time, kicking ass and taking names, this show, I'd be waving that flag of, hey, watch this. You're going to have a good time. But no. We get a show filled with already, with the exception of Master Chief, although by the end of it, I'm kind of going with the Master Chief as well, a host of unlikable characters, a lot of girl bosses, subservient men, and girls that all seem to know better than everybody else. That's what we got. It's not the gigantic woke fest that I think it could still turn into, but it's all there. But let's get started. What are we going on here? We are on the planet Madrigal. It's the year 2552. And the outer colonies are rebelling against the UNSC, the governing body of the galaxy, humanity. And they want their independence. And the general in charge of this, Quan is the girl. We'll say General Ha. General Ha is in charge of this. And what we get now is the openness. We get a ton of exposition. They don't really give us a lot of lore for anything, but they give us what they do give us is told through pretty lame exposition by an angry old man to his diverse cast around the table about how bad the UNSC is, how evil Spartans are, how they're killing machines, bred to just kill us other humans. Where in reality, in the actual lore, the Spartans, yes, did fight the insurrectionists while the Covenant War was going on, but they weren't done to do that. The Spartan program was created prior to the insurrection, as far as I can understand in my research. By all means, correct me if I'm wrong. Uh, and of course, they paint this picture of totalitarian UNSC. Totalitarian. They want to take away our rights and freedoms. All right, fine, whatever. I'm not endeared to you at all, ragtag rebels. You haven't endeared me at all. So we hear the general comes in. Where's my daughter? Everybody be on guard. You never know when the UNSC is going to attack. And again, where's my daughter? And oh, don't worry, Quan's out there. She's just so full of life. We can't keep track of her. Don't worry, she's fine. And now so begins the affirmation of Quan, which kind of goes throughout the first part of this, and I'm sure it's only going to continue as the show goes on. Cut to Quan and her ratty-looking friends wandering around in the wilderness looking for a plant that's basically going to get them high. Okay, yeah. Basically, and Quan is talking about how great things are, how great she is, and they're all, oh, Quan, you're great. What are we going to do without you? And here comes a moment. Here comes a moment where I want you to remember this, where we get the direct inspiration for Quan at the moment is she wants to get off this rock, which she calls Madrigal, this rock. She wants to go off into the galaxy and live her life. She has no connection to the dreams of independence that her father and those around them are clearly fighting for. She just wants to run away from it. Yeah, she's going to flip her tune later on. Just remember this moment. So right now, our first meeting with Quan, she doesn't care about the outer colony's struggle for independence. So while her friends are getting high and affirming her and what are we going to do without you, she notices something in the distance, goes off to investigate and discovers a Covenant dropship excavating in a cave. They see her. She's off to the races. And as she runs away and tells her friends to run, they don't want to listen. They get mowed down, turned to silly putty goo all over the ground. She gets splattered in their gore, and she fires off a flare to alert the Covenant is coming. And she returns to the facility, and everybody's getting ready. Oh, we're ready to fight. And her father's relieved to see her. Now, I got to give her father credit. General Ha looks to be a good dad. We get a good dad for a moment here who cares about the safety of his daughter, tells her to go hide while they must all defend because, hey, she's not a warrior. She's a 16-year-old little whammon. But as the Covenant breach the walls, and people are getting mowed down left and right, Quan says, I have to get out there and do something. No, Quan, stay here. No, you all hide. Everything's going to be all right. I'm going to go help. Of course, she gets out there and does absolutely nothing as the Covenant begin to massively slaughter with gruesome horror everybody she knows and loves. At one point, the Covenant burst open where she was hiding, and they mow everybody down in there. So her precociousness saved her own life. Her daringness to not be caught up and locked away like a protected little whammon saved her life. And her father thinks she's dead, and he's freaking out. I mean, everybody's getting mowed down, and then suddenly, on the horizon, a dropship appears. Here comes the Master Chief and Silver Team. Now, again, for the next 10 minutes, this is good. This is the best part of the show. Because as I said, this should have been what this show was all about. The Master Chief kicking ass, taking names, mowing down Covenant forces. They kick butt. I mean, him and the Silver Team, they kick butt. It's great. I liked it. The CGI is a little iffy, and even by my standards, and I'm kind of CGI blind, but it was okay. If the show had just been that or built around that entirely, I'd be okay, but it isn't. And when it's over, it goes back to boring because what happens now, Quan watches her father die and then watches Master Chief rescue her in badass fashion. I mean, and a lot of times you'll see through the viewpoint of the Master Chief, and for a second, it does look like the video game because you're looking through the Master Chief's eyes. Even though they've stated they didn't want any video game references, then why are you trying so hard at certain points to give us a viewpoint of the Master Chief like we would see in the video game? I don't know. Anyway, Master Chief calls it in. Says only one survivor. We're going to go investigate what the Covenant were doing here. So Master Chief and Team Silver go off, find the cave, and discover. Now, we don't actually have the terminology for this yet in the show, but I do know that that is a Forerunner artifact that the Covenant have been looking for because the Covenant consider the Forerunners to be the gods of the galaxy. They worship them. And Master Chief touches it, and something happens to the Master Chief. He remembers things. Now, here is where we're going to talk about how they've changed the Master Chief's backstory. Now, yes, these Spartan candidates were still kidnapped as children, but in this version, they have their memories wiped, apparently, and their personalities suppressed to be perfect, order-receiving killing machines. And there's no indication that there was any Spartan program part of this. These are supposed to be Spartan 2s. There's no indication there was any Spartans prior to this at all, as opposed to the original Halo lore, which I refreshed myself on before making this review. The original Halo lore states that while the children candidates were kidnapped unethically and had unethical things performed upon them by Dr. Halsey and all that kind of stuff, they retain their personalities. Yes, they're indoctrinated and all this stuff, but they still have their personalities. They are not husks that are simply told to do stuff and blindly do things. They have the ability to think and act freely and based on who they are. But in this one, they are clearly programmed killing machines, and by touching the Forerunner artifact, as we're going to see in a little bit later, it does something to the Master Chief. He starts remembering things. Well, a Covenant survivor spots the Master Chief and his Silver Team getting the artifact. He escapes to return to the Covenant High Command, and Master Chief calls it in, says we're coming home, and now it's time for girl bosses.
Admiral Parangoski, access granted.
150 dead civilians in Madrigal is not a good look for your Spartans, Catherine.
Girl boss time. Here come the girl bosses who literally take over the show at this point and are all insufferable to the point of, Halsey's sort of okay, but she's still not relatable. I'm not attached to her at all. And they take over the show, like I said, and they run it into the ground a bit. The Master Chief kind of wiggles back some control later, but even by then, you'll understand why. You're not really into the Master Chief at that point. You've lost it completely. But here we are. We arrive at Reach, the center of power for the UNSC. And here is Dr. Catherine Halsey, who is the creator, the brains behind the Spartan program. And she's monitoring the Master Chief, who has changed after touching the Forerunner artifact. And later on, in another scene, her and her little beta cuck, simpy assistant will be going over the information of how it's reigniting this and that and him. But okay, that doesn't matter anymore because I mentioned it. We're not going to come back to that. It's activating his memories. He's remembering stuff. Oh no, Master Chief's remembering things, but that's later. But I mention it now because I know I'm going to forget. Anyway, here comes Admiral Girl Boss, whose name I don't remember. Admiral Girl Boss comes in, starts dressing down Halsey over the massacre at Madrigal, how it doesn't look good for the Spartan program, and Halsey's like, hey, well, we got one survivor. It'll look good. Spin it story. And oh, look, artifact. We've got artifact. Let me have it. Don't give it to Miranda. Miranda Keys, her daughter. Let me have it. And Admiral Girl Boss is like, but that's Miranda's purview. So she's like, but Halsey's like, no, it was done during a Spartan mission. Therefore, it's mine. Let me have it. Whatever. Admiral Girl Boss relents because artifact looks good. Artifact makes people happy. Artifact might mean new technology. Then as Admiral Girl Boss is leaving, she looks through a door and sees something in there. Makes her get all angry again. Oh, Halsey, what are you doing? I said you couldn't do that. I'm angry, Admiral Girl Boss. And Halsey's like, but I kind of need to. I'm like, no, you can't do it. Stop it right now. Halsey pretends to relent. I think she pretends to relent. Because then she goes into the room and kind of just looks at this bald little whammon girl in a stasis module. I don't know. Maybe she's something to do with Cortana later on. We know that Cortana's backstory and creation has been changed in the Silver timeline again, as opposed to the actual timeline. We'll get into that when Cortana actually appears. Or mentioned again. She doesn't actually appear in this episode. Anyway, cut to the Covenant. The Covenant are hovering somewhere in unknown space. We don't know where the Covenant are. And we see one of the prophets being followed by a couple of elites marching through a hall. And here comes Girl Boss number 3, Evil Prophet Girl Boss. I don't know. They call her the something. I'm not a Prophet Girl Boss. It's a human Girl Boss who I know is not from the Halo games. She does not exist in Halo lore. She is some sort of oracle, I think. I don't know. I think it's subtitles. I was reading it, but it wasn't really sinking in. they're talking Covenant speak, and little Oracle Covenant girl boss is angry, but then she seems to be a little subservient when she gets caught reading a human book. I don't know. My prediction is at some point it looks like she's going to be all evil girl boss for a while, but then eventually she's going to see the error of her ways and help humanity. Maybe be the key to everything. I don't know. She can see things though. She can see things and react to Forerunner technology. Kind of catch that towards the end of the conversation with the prophet. She can make Forerunner technology come alive, and the Master Chief made it come alive too. So now there's a problem. Okay, we cut away, and that's the last we see of Covenant girl boss for a long time. Now, oh boy, this next part is where if you were already annoyed with Quan before, oh my God, you are gonna hate her from this point forward because now she becomes mini girl boss.
And when they hear my version, you can forget about Unity or whatever. Those other colonies are gonna run from the UNSC as fast as they can.
As I said, if you were already kind of leaning towards Quan as an insufferable bitch, well, this is gonna kind of push you over the edge because from this point on, she gets worse, in my opinion. Quan wakes up on the ship of the Master Chief, tries to get his attention, but he's kind of fixated on the Forerunner artifact. He gives her a glance, but then goes back to what he's looking at. And then hologram of Miranda Keyes appears, and Miranda tries to give a soft pitch to Quan about how we need your help. You're the only survivor. We want you to help us rally the outer colonies against the Covenant. Because now you see the Covenant's real. We weren't lying to you. And remember when I said earlier in the video how when we first meet Quan, she doesn't seem to give a living crap about her father's dreams of independence and everybody, the colony independence dream. So all she wants to do is get off the rock of Madrigal and go live her life. Well, suddenly, she becomes the ultimate rebellious patriot. She gets in the face of Miranda holograms like, let me get close to you guys. Like, right in her face. It's really off-putting and makes you just go, I don't like you. And what she does is she just tells her off like, I don't believe anything you say. You just want to use me. And you saw in the clip where if I tell my story, she goes, I'm going to tell my story how your Spartans massacred all my people and then blamed it on aliens. And then no one in our colonies are going to believe you, and you'll never get the unity you need against it. It's really horrible to watch. Because one, where did this sudden patriotism come from? And two, you dumb bitch. You just saw your people get wiped out, and you may have issues with the UNSC, but the Spartans saved you. Of course, we're going to find out why she hates the Master Chief, why she has issue with the Spartans in the following segment. But you see who the real threat is. The Covenant. Yet you're going to spit in everybody's face for your principles and your morals, and or suddenly your principles and morals. Yeah, it's good to have principles and morals and things you latch onto, but suddenly you care about it when up till now you showed no interest in it. Bad character writing, bad character development. And this is a sign of what's going to be going on. So she turns into little girl boss, tells off Miranda, who seems like a genuinely okay character in this version. We're going to get into her in a bit. And then Miranda disappears, and new mini girl boss left her own. And now we get back to what I mentioned earlier. You got Halsey and her little beta soy boy assistant going over Master Chief stuffs, and Halsey's concerned, so she calls up Master Chief. And we get a little conversation between John and Halsey. She's going, John, are you okay? How do you feel? He goes, something's changed in me. I feel something different. And she's like, okay, just take it easy. We're come home. We're going to check you out. Better put the artifact away. It may be messing with you. He's like, okay, I'm going to do a diagnostic. So he goes in the back, starts doing a diagnostic, and, Quan starts to pester him, and we cut away. Now we go to Miranda and her father, Jacob Keyes. And, well, due to my research, these two are, Jacob Keyes is a full-on race swap, which therefore makes Miranda a race swap by default because, Black father, white mother. Okay, nothing wrong with that, but hey, race swapping just for the sake of virtue signaling. There's no reason to race swap these characters. There's actual lore evidence of what their skin color is. But nope, doesn't matter. We're in the realm of virtue signaling. That's why I don't trust this show. If they do something like this to do it for no reason, I'm not going to trust your storytelling ability going forward. Anyway, so we get Jacob Keyes introduced, and he's a real passive, easygoing man. Large man, but passive and easygoing. Says this is pretty much the way of the world is the way of the world. You have to understand it. Has a conversation with Miranda about how your mother's not so bad. She's driven just like you. She's just the tech and the science always has to come first. The dream of building something bigger and better. And so Miranda and Catherine, her mother, clearly are at odds. Maybe we'll get reconciliation later. Oh, isn't that original? Who knows? Anywho, eventually it comes down to the point where Jacob says, so we're going to kill Quan. You did your best, kid, but now we got to kill her. It's come down from the top because we need to make it look like the aliens killed everybody, that the Covenant wiped everybody out and the Spartans did their best. And Miranda's going, no, it's bad. I can't do it. He's like, but that's just the way of the world, honey. You have to accept it. And it's just, you got this passive male individual, and you got the self-righteous, almost girl boss. Miranda is like almost girl boss. She's not girl boss. She's almost girl boss. But she's the self-righteous one. She's the morally grounded one. You can't do it. It have to be another way. It's not right. We can't fight and win this way. What's humanity? Blah, blah, blah. Bleeding heart crap. There we go. And so right now we've got the situation. You see that if this is where they're setting up Jacob to be basically a pushover of a guy, no, he doesn't even have a backbone for anything. Constantly for the rest of the show, we'll get railroaded by the women. And his daughter seems to have more of a backbone than he does. So he's like the only other, aside from Master Chief, Soy Boy Beta, Cuck, Assistant, and other Spartan who hasn't had his helmet taken off yet, but we know he's a black dude from promo material. This is the only other male presence we have. And he's subservient to the women. And he's passive. He's got no gumption, no get-go. Anyway, now comes again more reason to lose faith in this show going forward.
You know, we've actually met before today.
When was this?
When you killed my mother.
That's right, folks. They made the Master Chief a mommy killer. Let's tarnish our true hero of this story, shall we? First, now we've learned at this point that they are nothing but mindless killing machines, that being the Spartans. They're programmed, they receive their orders, they do their job. Until, an outside force suddenly maybe gives Master Chief a soul again. I don't know. Now you find out that Quan's mother, who innocently was organizing outer colony representatives to talk about their independence movement, she was killed by the Master Chief and other Spartans. And Master Chief basically goes, they were my orders. When I went in there, the orders changed to wipe him out because they were supposed to be an insurgent threat. And I just followed orders. Don't you love how they just give him the I just followed orders excuse? And this shows you right here, to me, they have no respect for the Master Chief, John 117. They got no respect for him if they turn him into a mommy killer. All to give Quan her self-righteous hatred. Oh, I met you before. Oh, you ruined my life, and I don't remember my mother much, but I remember you. You're everywhere. The poster boy for the UNSC propaganda. Shut up, you stupid 16-year-old insufferable bitch. Because that's what you are. You're an insufferable bitch who clearly knows more than everybody at this point, having never left the stupid rock that you lived on. You are so worldly. You know so much. You know what's right and wrong. You know the troubles of somebody who just giving orders and might question it, but then so you can see now they're setting it up. They mentioned it in the promo material. She's going to be the one to lead Master Chief to a more virtuous way of thinking. And because of her there, now because the Master Chief, because the Forerunner artifact has triggered something in the Master Chief, now he's starting to question things. Now, because of Quan, because of her presence, because as they're talking, he gets the order to eliminate her, to go take her out, the Minecrafter. He decides to reject the order. Master Chief rejects the order and basically starts to cut off the communications to the ship, and in doing so, alerts Reach Command that something is wrong. Because now suddenly we're back in Reach Command. Everybody, what's going on here? Why isn't he killing her? He's not responding. He's shutting off communications. Okay, let's just kill her by taking out the oxygen of the ship, because the ship's under AI control right now. Chief ain't flying crap. And they reduce his oxygen levels in his suit, because they have complete control, to knock him out. Of course, he's Chief. He overcomes it. In a badass moment, Chief overcomes the lack of oxygen, restores oxygen to the ship, and then begins our climactic moment where suddenly Boss Girl Admiral is saying, "We must take them down with full force. Nobody question me." Jacob's like, "What are you talking about? You shut up. I'm in charge here. I'm Girl Boss." Catherine Halsey's like, "But wait a minute. No, you shut up. I'm bigger Girl Boss than you." So Girl Boss Admiral's busy issuing orders. They rally the Marines, and they say, "We got to use the other Spartans too." But Catherine Halsey, as secondary Girl Boss, tells the other Spartans to, "All right, guys, you're going to back the Master Chief's play. I want you guys to back the Master Chief's play." And that's how it's going to roll. And they're like, "Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We back the Chief," because they still just follow straight up orders. Meanwhile, back on the ship, Chief comes back to consciousness, and here comes Quan aiming a gun at him. He's like, "I'm going to shoot you. I'm going to kill you, you son of a bitch." And Chief's like, "Yeah, I'm wearing the latest Mylinear armor. You're not going to do crap to me." But then.
If you want me dead, you'll need to aim up here.
They couldn't even wait one episode before they took his helmet off. I mean, that in this single moment, and I got nothing against Pablo Schreiber, nothing against him, but the moment you take off the Master Chief's helmet, it's like Samson with his hair being cut off. He lost all his power in this episode. There's nothing intimidating. There's something about the Master Chief's helmet where you just have the yellow visor, and when he looks at you, you can't see it's that. It's just the Master Chief glare without the glare. The presence, the feeling. You've just removed his presence. Even when he's going to put the helmet back on eventually, doesn't matter. The Master Chief no longer has that air of powerful mystery presence, that imposing feeling, because this is what he looks like underneath. This was a massive error, a massive poor choice to make, to take off them. So he takes on, and then he says a line, "If you want to kill me, I'm giving the little women power because I feel guilty because I'm a mommy killer. You can go ahead and in the head, huh? Go take me out." Oh, he just cucks to her immediately. Little stupid 16-year-old insufferable women bitch cucks to her immediately. Master Chief just hands her his balls because now she's in control. And in the case she hadn't decided to be rational, because they're on approach to Reach, they have to regain control of the ship if they're going to escape. What if she continued to be irrational like she was earlier and actually shot him because she's stupid? No, well, she has a moment of rational behavior, and I gotta give Quan credit. She's got good trigger discipline. Finger not on the trigger. Good girl. But she gives in. It's like, okay, now we gotta get to work. So now they together start to try and wrest control away from Reach command of the ship. Meanwhile, you got everybody piling up outside, and of course, he's telling her you gotta do it good, and then of course her solution is to shoot it. I mean, yeah, I know I joked for years something's broken, hit it with a hammer to make it work, but we're talking sophisticated technology here. I'm just going to shoot it and it's going to work. Now, we're going to have the action. Stupid! That's just plain stupid! So they start to get some control back, but then, of course, they get locked in. Jacob gets the command from Girl Boss Admiral to use an EMP blast to short the ship out, and crashes. Everybody's lined up, guns ablazing. Quan's freaking out because Master Chief hasn't figured out what to do yet. And here come the other Spartans. And you know the other Spartans are going to back his play because that's what Halsey ordered them to do. And you think something bad's going on, but then suddenly Chief looks over. The artifact. He's drawn to the Forerunner artifact. And he's got to touch it. And he touches it. And it starts going. You see a little Halo symbol. And suddenly a remix of the choral Halo chant runs over everything. And you see Halsey going, yeah. And Chief touches it, and suddenly an EMP blast fires out from the artifact, shorts out the entire city, but recharges the ship. And then you got Chief and Quan. Oh, I'm sorry. Chief also gets a little memory flash, and suddenly, through his memory, he drew a picture of the artifact. So this isn't the first time Master Chief has come in contact with a Forerunner artifact like this. This is so lame. Anyway, so now the ship is restored, and together in the co-pilot seat, Chief, and with his helmet still off, he never puts his helmet back on the entire time. Chief and now his new little teenage companion shoot off into the cosmos to, I don't know what, to find out the secret of the artifact. We don't know. And meanwhile, Halsey's going, oh, this is great, gotta do this, and she's all excited, and it's just, this is bad. All right, let's get to the recap.
What did you just do?
Switching to auxiliary power.
What was that?
And there you have it. Halo Season 1, Episode 1. I wouldn't call it a dumpster fire quite yet, but this show is tepid. It's boring. You front-loaded the action in the beginning with the Master Chief doing what the Master Chief should do, kicking a lot of ass, and then you fell away from it. Then you got introspection where we didn't need it. You got girl bosses run all over the place. You have the bastardization of the lore because they had to make their own silver timeline lore because the writers couldn't be constrained by the video game lore that everybody would expect to be in this show. God forbid you give the fans what they want. No, we're going to give you bastardized versions. We're going to take the Master Chief's helmet off. We're going to give you really boring soundtrack. We're going to give you a annoying, insufferable girl bosses and girl bosses in training who know better than every single man around. All the men are going to be subservient, and the Master Chief's going to hand his balls to a tiny little teenage woman because they turned him into a mommy killer, and he feels guilty. Soundtrack is also, as I said, boring, except for that remix of the Halo choral chant in the end there. You paid me $1 million. I would not be able to hum anything from this. Nothing. That's how unmemorable the soundtrack is. Special effects, average, boring. Master Chief looks like Master Chief when he's in his armor. Take that helmet off, you lose me completely. Totally gone. Not interested. This story seems tepid and boring. Now they're on the run. How the hell is that going to work? I don't know. You're on the run from everybody, from the Covenant and from the people who were supposed to be your allies. We were supposed to connect with the downtrodden rebels, yet they were stupid and annoying. You have characters that make no sense. Quan, I want to get off this rock. Now I suddenly care about my patriotic duty for the freedom and independence of my people. We're all dead, by the way. If the show gets any better, we'll see. I don't know. And now we get to look forward to the bastardization of Cortana, who in this show, as alluded to the twice times she was mentioned in this episode, is not the Cortana that Dr. Halsey created to study Forerunner technology, Forerunner artifacts. No, she was created to be a control mechanism for Spartans. That you're not going to get the Cortana that you would grow to love and then mourn, where her storyline eventually takes her in the Halo franchise, as many hardcore Halo fans know it. I don't have a lot of faith in this show. I don't think it's going to get any better. Frankly, I think it's probably going to get worse. But we will document it. I will watch it. I will suffer so that you don't have to. So stay tuned. Next week, we'll get episode 2. I hope to see you again. Thank you for watching this review. See you at episode 2. Howdy, y'all. The first chapter of my fantasy novel, Guardian of Innocence, is now available for free. Click the link in the description below and join me in an old-school good versus evil story where Cole Ares, a disillusioned mercenary, suddenly finds himself dropped into the middle of a destiny he never asked for as the protector of Jania Sarai, a blacksmith's daughter who may hold the answers to finally stopping a millennia-old threat to the world of Rosetta. Cole's perceptions of love, family, trust, loyalty, as well as his very beliefs in fate versus free will shall be tested as he struggles to keep Jania safe from the minions of the dreaded Zabor Tal, former champion of the gods and now ruler of the long-forgotten Yis Empire. Click the link below, enjoy the first chapter, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and help it grow so that I can bring you the full story in the near future. Thank you, and enjoy the video. Thanks for watching, everyone. I don't do Facebook. I will never do Twitter. If you want to reach out to me, email me at therednerd@gmail.com. I'm on Getter now, at TheRedNerd, the Geeks and Gamers forums under @ROAS, and you can also follow me on Odyssey at The Renaissance Nerd. Thanks again for watching. Take it easy.